either read them out loud or make sure that they're captured in our notes. So Mary is going to stay with you for the duration of today's workshop, but as Joanna mentioned, Sandy and I are going to be jumping around and rotating through the various rooms, and so you'll have a rotating group of facilitators to talk about different study areas as we go. We're going to be covering about four study areas in each breakout session, and we have about 25 minutes to do it. So we'd like to keep it to about 5 minutes per study area. Some of the study areas are larger than others, so we can spend more time talking about those in particular. And if conversation sort of evolves that we'd like to spend more time on one in particular, just remember that it's coming at the expense of some of the other ones, so we may have less time to talk about those. And as a reminder, we're not asking you to pick a preferred alternative. We're asking you whether we've captured the right range of alternatives for these particular portions of the city in at least one of the three alternatives that we're looking at. So the bolded and underlined questions here on this slide are really what we're asking you today. Is this the right range of alternative scenarios? And are there ideas or changes missing that you would like to see evaluated? And remember, you can make comments or ask questions via chat, or you can raise your hand and we will unmute you if you'd like to make a verbal comment. And we're going to be capturing those questions and comments as we go. So just to quickly reiterate, and Joanna mentioned this in the initial presentation, but at a high level, alternative A in general has the least amount of change in designations and has the lowest amount of residential growth over this 20-year time horizon. Alternative B has the second highest residential growth, and it spreads it out across all 10 study areas with more mid-range heights. And then alternative C has the highest amount of residential growth, and much of that growth is concentrated either in study area 3, which is the rail corridor area, or study area 4, which is our downtown area in San Mateo. So actually study area 3 is one of the ones we are going to be talking about in this particular breakout session. So just to orient you to the four areas that we're going to be discussing, we have study area 1, two sections of study area 1, which really runs the length of the city along El Camino Real. So the two portions that we have are from about Central Park in downtown down to 92. And then the other part, the little sliver at the southern end of this map, is between about 36th to 40th, just south of Hillsdale. We're also going to be talking about study area 3, which is the largest study area in San Mateo, and that incorporates much of El Camino between 92 and Hillsdale Mall. It also includes the areas surrounding Hayward Park and the Hillsdale Caltrain stations. And then study area 8, which is the area that immediately surrounds the 101 and 92 interchange. So I'm going to start with a study area. I'm not going to start with study area 3 because it's large and I want to make sure we can sort of get our feet wet first and get acclimated to the different colors on the map. So we're going to start with study area 8. But in the meantime, if you have a preference, you can throw it into the chat if there's a study area you want to make sure that we cover during this particular breakout. I'm imagining based on Thursday's feedback, it's going to be study area 3, but we'll make sure that we leave enough time so that everybody has a chance to give comments on all of them. So let me go ahead and skip ahead to study area 8. So as I mentioned, this is the area immediately surrounding 101 and 92. So right now it includes the Crossroads office complex, the Marriott off of 101. It includes Parkside Plaza and the area around the fish market along the waterfront. And then just south of 92, by the Waters Park development that's happening, it's the office space that's just above that on that large parcel that's purple, sort of to the right of the screen here. So that's what's currently existing in this area. And then I'm going to walk you through the three different alternatives in terms of land use here. So just at a high level, in terms of what the main differences are, I'll start at the north side. And so in this parcel here, which is currently an office park, study or alternatives A and C have that designated as a low density residential. Study or alternative B has it as a medium density residential. And again, that's a 4 to 7 stories residential land use. Residential low is 1 to 3 stories. San Mateo Marriott and the Crossroads development stay the same in all three scenarios. One little difference here is these two parcels just to the west of the Crossroads office park are mixed use low in study area or alternative A, and then mixed use medium in B and C. There's a slight difference there across the three alternatives. And then Parkside Plaza is different in all three. So in alternative A, it's designated as mixed use low. It's residential medium in alternative B, and then it's mixed use medium in alternative C. One other main distinction between the three is this office park here. So you see it's office medium in alternative A, it's residential low in alternative B, and then it's residential medium in alternative C. So there's a little bit of a difference across the three alternatives. And then one last thing I want to point out is you might notice here in these boxes at the bottom, alternative B and C have very similar amounts of growth across these two alternatives. So it's really a matter of where the residential growth is happening. Here, for example, Parkside Plaza has a residential medium, and this office park has a residential medium, whereas in C, it's in this office park down here. So the total amount of net new people and units is about the same. It's a matter of where they're located within study area 8. So I know that's a lot of information to throw at you, and I'm going to pause here and see, just referring back to our questions, did we capture the right range of scenarios for the different land uses in this particular study area? And is there anything that's missing that you'd like to see us evaluate or study for this particular area? Any chat so far, Mary?
No chat so far. I did want to add, I know that everybody did receive instructions once that were registered. I'm going to include in the chat the links to all the different reference material, just so you don't get confused. There is one comment right now. It said the apartment on Grant Street. Thomas, do you want to raise your hand so that you can speak, or do you have more information about that comment? He's raising his hand, so let me, there you go. You can go ahead and speak, Thomas.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, you can.
So yeah, those apartments on Grant Street, there's probably 10 or 15 5-unit apartment buildings. So it just seems like that's an opportunity where you could kind of take older apartment stock and just make it more dense. If you could find somebody to buy those and make them one project.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. We'll capture that comment.
And then a couple more comments. I'll just do one at a time. Would it be possible to quickly run through what's not included here? Example, light industrial, to help us think through what ought to be included.
Yes, it's a good point. Let me pull up the place types menu. So for example, there aren't any industrial designations here. So you would see like a gray, a dark gray, or a light gray. That would be an industrial designation. The densities, you might want to chime in about, whether the density in itself looks right. So if there's an example where, say one parcel is showing up as low density across the three and you want it to be a higher density, that's also a great comment to capture. I think for the most part, this includes most of our land use types. It's really a matter of how dense those land uses are. That's sort of what we're looking for. I think the only exception is the industrial, and then there's not a parks or open space designation here, but that's because there's not one existing at this point.
Okay, the next question for you is there any green space or publicly accessible private owned options in any of these?
Not in any of these for this particular study area. So that's a great comment. If that's something you'd like to see, we can capture that as well.
Actually, Brian,
Yep.
the office space north of Marriott does have P.
Oh, yep.
Parklet.
You're right. And actually there's one here that looks like it's included as part of Concar, which should probably be in all three. But yes, you're right. This office park up here does have a publicly owned,
If someone
privately
has,
owned public space.
if we have ideas for other locations, we can add that.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm sorry, can I go back to, sorry, Thomas's comment at the beginning about the apartments on Grant Street. I believe the ones you're talking about are outside of the area. So are you, just to clarify, Grant Street?
Actually, Thomas, I think you're still unmuted if you want to respond directly.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure. That's right there along Grant Street.
The curve.
The curve just across the street
Up
from
here.
the
Across from the curve,
yellow
yeah,
and the
okay.
red.
I'm
pinkish.
going to
Because
note.
I guess my kind of something to get more housing in areas, and I don't know if it's
Yeah,
part of the plan, but it seems like there's a lot of like 4 or 5 units apartment throughout the city, and maybe those areas are
Okay.
areas where if they can be combined, you can get maybe a bigger building. But
I'm going to note it. I'll just point out that it's technically outside of the area, but it's right on the border. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Thomas.
Okay, and then a couple more. Could you explore residential high in the office area? Keep Parkside Plaza residential high, but keep the residential low along South Amplet.
Okay, so the office park here is that, could you read that again one more time, Mary?
Sure. Could you explore residential high in the office area? Keep Parkside Plaza residential high, but keep the residential low along South Amplet.
Okay, so residential low along South Amplet, I'm assuming is this section here. And then the office area, I'm not sure whether they meant this section that's currently office down here along this parcel south of 92, or if they were talking about this current office development here. So if you want to just submit a clarifying comment there, whoever submitted that, we will make sure to capture that too.
Okay, and then are there opportunities around Washington, Adams, and related areas we're missing?
So over here, we can capture that comment too. Again, it's outside of the study area, but if there are, as Joanna mentioned, we are looking at the whole city as part of this process. So we're happy to capture that comment as well.
And then a couple comments about the public open space. They'd like to see them along the water. And then another comment that they would like to have more green space considered, particularly because this is the midst of the 92 spaghetti snarl. And then another question, what currently at South Amplet Boulevard next to the Marriott? What's currently at South Amplet next to the
Right
Marriott?
here. So this area is a large office park area right here, right now, where this privately owned public open space, the P is. So all this entire parcel, I believe, is an office park.
And then going back to the previous question where you wanted clarification,
Mm-hmm.
the area they meant was the office area south of 92 for residential high.
Okay, so this one right here, south of 92, is sort of
Mhm.
near where Waters is right now.
And then another comment, I'd like to see residential high in one alternative north of the Marriott, given the study area's proximity to transit and 101.
Okay, thank you for that comment.
And
I
then
think given time, I want to make sure that we get to at least to study area 3 because it's the biggest one, but keep submitting your comments via chat. And if we don't get to all of them verbally, we're at least going to make sure we note them all. But I do want to orient you to our study area 3 because it's the biggest one and probably the one that's going to generate the most comments. So as I mentioned, this is our largest study area. It runs from about 16th Avenue on El Camino down to 36th along El Camino. It includes the areas around the 2 Caltrain stations there. It also includes Bay Meadows and the event center. And then it also incorporates some of this newly approved or newly constructed development up here, like Station Park Green and the Concar project. You're going to notice in all 3 of these alternatives that a lot of the parcels to the east of the Caltrain line, so this line that runs right through here, are mostly going to stay the same. And that's largely because they're reflecting either the Bay Meadows specific plan or they're reflecting recently constructed or approved projects along the side east of the railroad. So much of the change is going to be concentrated here along El Camino. So pay particular attention to this area as you look at the differences between the three. So I'm just going to start with the highlights of alternative A. So in this particular alternative, the Burrell Square Shopping Center is a mixed use medium designation. It does have one of those privately owned public spaces here. 25th Avenue is mixed use low. So this area along here to the west of El Camino. And then Hillsdale Mall is a combination of commercial regional, which is, as Joanna mentioned before, like a destination shopping designation, and a mixed use medium as well. So alternative B, Burrell Square is a residential medium designation here. Again, still has this open space. 25th Avenue is slightly more dense in this alternative. It's a mixed use medium instead of low. And then the Hillsdale Mall, again, is still a commercial regional and a mixed use medium designation. And then C, Burrell Square is a mixed use high here. So that's eight plus stories and could be a combination of retail and residential or office. 25th Avenue is, again, mixed use medium as it is in alternative B. And then Hillsdale Mall is mixed use medium and mixed use high.
Brian, I
So
just want to quickly let you know that we have about 8 minutes left.
Okay.
Total.
So I know this is definitely a lot to look at. I actually have all three of them next to each other if that makes it any easier. But here are sort of the main differences. As I said, Burrell Square is a little bit different in each one. 25th Avenue is either a low density mixed use or a medium density mixed use. And then the Hillsdale Shopping Center, it's the same in A and B, but it's a high mixed use designation here in alternative C. Does anyone have any comments on this or anything they'd like to see us explore that they think is missing from any of these alternatives?
Just waiting for comments to come in, Brian.
Sure.
Okay, we have a couple. We have a few coming in.
Okay.
Will there be small gathering or park areas on 25th Avenue like they have on 24th Street in San Francisco's Nori Valley?
We don't have a open space or a privately owned open space designation there, but if that's something that you think we should explore, we can take that note too. Thanks for that comment.
And then just for clarity, someone's asking, can you say again what is next to Hillsdale? Looks orangey red. Hillsdale Shopping Center.
Right. So that's a regional commercial designation. So that is like that right now, that section I think is where the Pinstripes and that new theater is along here. So that is currently a commercial regional designation. Here it would be a high mixed use. So it could include apartment buildings, residential or office as well.
And I don't have any other questions coming in now, but we can just give it a minute. Do you have one more area to do, Brian?
I have, yeah, a couple small chunks of El Camino, so I can go and start talking about one of those and then.
Okay. I've got a couple
Okay.
more questions.
Go ahead.
I like the Popo's idea for 25th Avenue too, POPOS, and then areas that promoting a bit of nature gathering and community enhances the walking and shopping.
Okay.
I think.
Thank you for that.
Okay. And then Thomas just had a comment for me. General, thanks, Thomas. I'll take a look at that really quickly.
Okay. So while you're doing that, I'm going to quickly go through the northern portion of study area 1 here. So this is the area between Central Park and then the north side of study area 3. So about almost to 92 here. So right now it's a mixture of community commercial, high density multifamily designations. And so here is how the 3 alternatives shake out here. So there's a lot of mixed use in all 3, particularly at the northern end. So here is a mixed use low in alternative A for basically 12th Avenue up to 9th Avenue. The combination of high density mixed use and medium density mixed use here in the same area for alternative B. And then it's almost all mixed use medium for alternative C in that area. And then south of 12th Avenue, it's a mixed use medium designation for the most part in A. It's actually a high density residential in B. And then it's a combination. It's largely the same as A and C here, with mostly mixed use medium and a couple of residential medium parcels here. And then this parcel down here at the southern end is high density office in A and C, and a high density mixed use in alternative B. So I will pause here and make sure we capture all the questions or comments you might have about this study area 2. And you might notice, so at the bottom here, these numbers are reflecting the entirety of study area 1. So that includes all of El Camino Real from the north end of the city to the south. It doesn't necessarily match one-to-one with this portion of the study area.
There is a question. It would be great if, or a comment, if there was a way to visualize what the impact might be of a mixed use medium in all the study areas that border El Camino, to see the whole street together.
Okay.
And we have about, just so you know, Brian, we have about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
And then another comment, would like to see more residential rather than predominantly mixed use.
Can you clarify where specifically? Throughout?
Abigail, would you like to clarify where you'd like to see more residential? And then there's another question or a comment. Are any of these areas in the able to be approved by city planning council? If so, we need to take advantage of higher residential opportunities.
Not sure if I entirely get that question.
I think it has to do more with zoning. Maybe, maybe the zoning, if it's an area that can be used as, you know, that can be approved for zoning. That's just what I'm reading into it.
Okay.
And then Abigail, did you want to respond to where you wanted the more residential?
So to Abigail's comment, I do think, at least in this portion of study area 1 and also a lot of study area 3, a lot of the areas along El Camino are mixed use designations. So perhaps it was just a general comment about the El Camino corridor where they would like to see.
Yes, she said El Camino. And
Okay.
then clarifying for that last question, example, under Proposition Y, the city can approve higher limits in some areas.
Yeah, so that would be something that we would look at in the further evaluation process, sort of in the next step of this. But I take the commenter's point that they'd like to look at areas that, you know, could have fast track or streamlined approval for certain types of development.
And then we just have one more minute. And Adam Lorraine said, I think that's incorrect. I'm not sure what comment he was talking about, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's probably the questions around Measure Y.
Okay. So we have about 1 more minute here, and I don't know if you have time to get to the last one, Brian.
We can. It's a very small study area. It's just 4 blocks of El Camino down here. But the main difference, so this dark red is a commercial neighborhood. So basically your neighborhood shops. Oh, no, we'd be being told to move to the next room. So I encourage everybody, if you didn't get a chance to comment on this or any of the others, or if you have additional comments, to please take the online survey and make sure they're captured there.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep, thank you.
All right, next one. So our next facilitator will be Kerry Stone. And she should be joining us shortly here.
Sandy.
Hi, Kerry.
Okay, I'm leaving. Bye.
Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I think we can go ahead and get started. I just want to briefly introduce who's here with you now. That's myself, Kerry Stone. I work for PlaceWorks, and I'm the project manager for the consultant team on the general plan update. You all know Joanna Jansen by now. She's the principal in charge with PlaceWorks. And we have Matthew, who is a new engineer with the city, and he will be taking notes and capturing all your comments and questions today. During this breakout session, I'm going to walk you through 3 draft circulation alternatives. And the circulation alternatives explore different ways people can travel throughout San Mateo. And while they provide the big picture strategy, there are other city documents that will get into the details about how to implement these ideas. And these documents include the recently completed bike master plan, the downtown parking plan, the neighborhood traffic management program, and a future complete streets plan that the city's about to start. All the draft circulation alternatives are consistent with these documents, but they present some new ideas for the community to consider. So just a reminder that our focus this morning is on 2 primary questions. Is this the right range of alternative scenarios to consider? And are there ideas missing that you'd like to see evaluated? So Joanna's going to share her screen now, and I'm going to briefly walk you through the 3 alternatives before we start our discussion. All right, the first alternative is alternative A, and it focuses on creating a walkable community in San Mateo by connecting neighborhoods through pedestrian routes to transit, schools, and other amenities. Pedestrian improvements could include enhanced lighting, adding using sidewalks, as shown by the darker blue lines that Joanna's pointing out, improving pedestrian crossings to make them safer, and those are shown by the blue circles, widening sidewalks, traffic calming, adding things like street trees. These details, as I just mentioned, would be worked out in the city's implementing documents. The green line along El Camino Real that Joanna is highlighting right now represents bike and public realm improvements. And public realm improvements are things like street furniture, better lighting, landscaping, street trees, parklets, and things like that. The solid purple lines represent existing bikeways of all types. So this could be anything from bike boulevard signage, arrows painted on the street, and a green painted bike lane. And so the dotted purple lines are proposed bikeways of all types, and those are identified in the bike master plan. The solid red lines, which may look like a dark orange on your screen, shows existing shared bike and pedestrian paths, and the dotted red lines show proposed bicycle and ped paths. This alternative also envisions a 2-block pedestrian-only street downtown, and that's on B Street between First Avenue and 3rd Avenue. And Joanna's zooming in right now, highlighting that. All right, I think we can move on to alternative B. So the goal of this alternative is to enhance access to transit in San Mateo, focusing on connections to the city's 3 Caltrain stations and high frequency bus service along El Camino Real. It envisions adding new shuttle connections between Caltrain and El Camino Real and study areas 3, 6, and 10 to improve the city's east-west connections, as shown by these yellow lines. What I see as yellow, but it may look like a gold or an orangey color on your screen. This alternative also explores potential bus rapid transit improvements along El Camino Real. These improvements could include things like a bus-only lane, signal preemption for buses, enhanced bus stops, more frequent buses, lower bus floors to improve accessibility, and other improvements that would enhance bus service. And you'll see the same purple and red lines. And again, that's from the bike master plan. The purple ones, sorry. All right, Joanna, we can go on to alternative C. So this alternative combines the bike, pedestrian, and local transit connections shown in alternatives A and B, and it explores some additional oops, sorry, we're on B. Oh, no, we're on C. Yeah. They explore some additional inventive urban design concepts, such as implementing a superblock concept in San Mateo's downtown. This idea originally originated from Barcelona, Spain. And the primary idea is that through traffic that passes through downtown would have to travel around the perimeter of downtown instead. Cars visiting downtown would be allowed on limited interior roadways, and that would create some more pedestrian and civic space in other areas in the downtown.
Carrie, we have one clarifying question that might
Sure.
help. Question of, could we clarify whether pedestrian only section downtown is essentially what we're currently piloting with street closures or something different?
No, I think that's exactly the same. I haven't been to the downtown street closures, but I can imagine it's the same thing. Joanna, do you have? Yeah, okay. So let me go on. So this alternative also envisions adding an automated micromobility circulator, such as an autonomous vehicle shuttle between Caltrain and El Camino Real, and that would connect to studies areas 3, 6, and 10, again, to improve the city's east-west connections. I see this line as a yellow color, but it may look gold or orangey on your screen. The green line represents bike and public realm improvements and bus rapid transit improvements along El Camino Real. And once again, the blue.
Somebody wants you to re-clarify the colors.
Sure.
Sorry.
So the yellow line right there is the transit connections. And to me, it looks yellow, but it may look gold or an orangey color to you. So it's the one Joanna's highlighting right now. And then my last thing I was saying is that the blue dots are the safety improvements for pedestrians. And it's the same purple and red lines as on the other two alternatives.
And then
So now
the dotted green ones yet?
No, I didn't. So those are from the 2012 pedestrian plan, and those are proposed pedestrian improvements. And it's the hope that the city's complete streets plan that they're about to start will combine all these improvements into one document. All right, so I'm going to open it up to your questions and comments. Just a reminder that we're asking the same two questions. Is this the right range of alternatives to consider? And are there any ideas missing that you'd like to see evaluated?
There is a question about green dotted and green.
Sure,
lines.
yeah, this came up in the last session too. It's a little confusing because they come from two different plans. So the green dots are pedestrian improvements from the 2012, proposed pedestrian improvements from the 2012 pedestrian plan. And the purple dots are proposed bike improvements from the bike master plan.
Okay, here's a couple of questions. Are there any proposals at this point as to potential routes for autonomous shuttles? I think you touched on that, but you might go into it.
Sure.
And there's a few more questions as well. If downtown is zoned like Barcelona, what parking for these cars not allowed internally into city are planned?
Sure, let me hit the first one because that's
okay.
Fairly easy, but the yellow lines show the transit connections. So that's and this would envision an AV, for short circulator that would go along these routes to connect these outlying areas to the Caltrain station and the high frequency bus service on El Camino Real. And the question about
I would add to that, I think that that's routes for those types of shuttle services are also something that can be flexible. So we're considering one option here, connecting, the college, for example, with the Hillsdale station, but those routes certainly are something that could evolve over time.
Sure, yeah, and that's the benefit of this type of transit service. It doesn't have to be on a fixed route. There's flexibility. But parking in the downtown for the super blocks, those details would have to be worked out. This is just a high, conceptual idea at this point. But I know we've heard that downtown parking is an important issue for the community. And if this was something that the community wanted to continue to explore, we definitely have to work out those details.
Okay, and there's,
Hang on just a second, Mary, sorry.
No worries.
I asked Christina if she could pop in and see if we could get any more responses to the question about street closures downtown, comparing this kind of super block idea in alternative C or the kind of smaller 2-block area in alternative A. How does that compare to the street closures that the city is piloting right now? And is that something that people can kind of use to get an idea of what we're referring to in these alternatives?
Okay.
I think that it gives a sense of what it will be like functionally. But I think if we were to move toward permanent street closures, that it would look different because we would have, more permanent facilities and amenities to support that use. But right now, part of the pilot is figuring out how circulation goes. Right now, the pilot's in place through the end of September. As you mentioned in the other room, there's room for emergency access. So it's not 100% closed off. There is access for certain activities. And so I'm not sure if that's the question.
I think so, that helps.
Yeah, okay.
Kerry nor I had experienced the pilot program in person yet.
Okay. Yeah, we have a block
to get a sense of a local.
Yeah, okay.
Somewhere with local knowledge.
And here's another comment. I see yellow bus line going east-west near Hillsdale. Is there any public transit going east-west to the north to make it easier to get from northeast housing to Caltrain?
Sure. So the idea is really in this alternative is to focus getting people to those north-south connections along El Camino Real, and then using the existing high-capacity transit that goes north-south already.
And then how would you make El Camino a more pleasant experience to encourage more walking?
Sure. Yeah, as I mentioned, those details would be worked out in implementation plans, but things like wider sidewalks, adding street trees, adding benches, improving the landscaping, those are all things that can help the pedestrian experience.
Okay, and there's a park along the slough. Roberta, can there be a pedestrian connection across the slough for better connection to Bridgepoint offices and shopping?
Yeah, that's a great comment. And those are the kinds of ideas that we are looking for today.
And then is alternative A one alternative proposing bike lanes on El Camino Real? If not, is there any other, is there another primary north-south bike route, east-west, ? So north-south and then east-west bike routes.
Yeah. So alternative A, does focus on the pedestrian improvements, but you can see there are north-south bike routes proposed in the bike master plan adjacent to El Camino Real, and then further afar towards the east of the city across 101.
Okay, and I'm just going to let you know, Kerry, we have about 9 more minutes, and then I have another question. I like parklets, but am concerned by the impact on future business as the economy recovers. Parking is unacceptable right now, worse with recovery. Need to balance both.
Yeah, of course. And I do want to just remind that the city does have a downtown parking management plan, and the city is very aware that parking is a high priority for the community.
And a comment or a question, are the walking tree improvements on El Camino in all 3 plans or only plan 1?
Well, so alternative A really focuses on pedestrian improvements, and B is more the transit focus. And then C is the combo of both. But I do want to say, as part of transit improvements, adding street trees and enhancing the pedestrian environment can be, a type of transit improvement as well. So again, those kind of details would be, because it would help get people to transit. I should have finished that thought. So those are the kinds of details that can be worked out in these implementation documents.
Okay, I don't see any other questions at this. Oh, here we go. would like to see trails along the waterways.
Along the slough or along the creek?
Jessica, do you want to clarify that?
Sure. Yeah, I think along all of the sloughs. I think I
Okay.
was.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, are you speaking? Because I can't hear you.
No, I'm just waiting for
Okay,
people's
sorry.
thoughts to bubble
Okay.
up in their heads.
I just wanted to make sure that I didn't hit something inadvertently to. Okay, here's another question. How do the three plans differ with respect to the 10192 crossing, especially for bikes and pedestrians?
So you'll see that I think, there is that purple existing lane across. Alternatives 1 and, wait, do you want, is it, I think it's 1 and 3 envision specific safety improvements in that area.
Yeah, we're looking at C right now. So
Okay.
A and C both have these pedestrian
Right.
improvements near the on-ramps.
And B, I think, does not have those dots. So that's the difference.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's the main difference. But all three alternatives, all three alternatives includes filling in missing sidewalk here. That's the dark blue line. And Kerry already pointed out the existing purple bikeway. So that's obviously carried through all three.
And I don't see any more questions right now. And we have about 6 more minutes here. Does anybody have any other questions overall about what we're doing here right now? Or do they want to maybe share how they, what their interest is in San Mateo? Oh, here's another question. Are we really considering making either pedestrian focused improvements or transit improvements? Why explore alternatives this way? Seems different from the other land use approaches. Why?
That's a great question. I think one potential response is, there's a finite limited resources we have as, a community. And so how can we best focus our resources? And C does look at everything, but it might mean some trade-offs because you have to, focus certain improvements, certain places, and you're probably not going to get everything because of that. Joanna, anything to add?
Well, I think you covered it a little bit. You covered it very well so far, but I would just add that, yeah, I think many people, when they see, well, you can have pedestrian improvements, or you could have transit improvements, or you could have both. I think in a lot of our sessions so far, people have been like, well, obviously I want both. Why make me choose? And so the answers are along the lines of what Kerry was just saying. It certainly has to do with the cost of installing and improving and maintaining these types of improvements. But it also has to do with the fact that the right of way on any roadway is a finite space. And so within that space, you do have to make choices about which users are prioritized. And so choosing a single priority like pedestrians or like transit might provide flexibility for other users like the cars and trucks, especially that use El Camino today, to have a less impact on that existing configuration. Whereas if you want to prioritize both transit and pedestrians, then that would imply, depending on the final solutions considered, that deprioritization of car traffic. And we know that many stakeholders are interested in considering that. And we also know that many stakeholders have significant concerns about that. So we want to use the evaluation to explore those different possibilities and get a better sense of what those trade-offs might be.
Said that just a comment. They said, thank you for that explanation.
Sure, hope that was helpful.
So we have about 3 more minutes here. in this session. And I'm not sure if anybody wanted to let us know what their interest is in the city of San Mateo, if it's, you know, resident, homeowner, work here, do business here, own property. If anybody wants to share that, that would be great.
And I'm just curious too, if anybody, you know, how do you get around San Mateo today? How would you like to get around San Mateo over the next 20 years? Are those possibilities and those ideas represented here in one of the three alternatives? And if not, what could we capture?
Here's another comment. Consider a circulator between 101 and Caltrain corridor between Haywood Park and downtown, or connections between higher density residential and retail commercial areas.
Great, thank you.
We have about one more minute. Here's one more question, one comment. Traffic going east to west can be really challenging, and as we add housing, it will be more so. Is there anything else we should be looking at in these plans to help ease the congestion?
Yeah, that's, again, these are all good questions. I think, you know, I just want to remind you that the city does look at congestion and capacity as part of its analyses when considering new project, and that will continue to be the case moving forward. Adding things, other ways to move about town through bike and ped improvements and transit, we hope will also reduce some of the congestion that we're experiencing right now.
But I think options, seeing whether or not, part of what I'm hearing in that comment is, let's take a look at the alternatives to see if one or more of them could be even more explicit about east-west improvements or connections, whether that's physical improvements or transit improvements. So thanks for that. That's a great example of really helpful feedback.
So I think it's time to go back to the from the breakout rooms now. And thank you, Kerry and Joanna, for all your help here.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks so much.
And next, Linda will be joining us, the next facilitator. Jessica, I see your comment. It will be added to the chat. Actually, yeah. So it will be added to the chat as a comment. And Linda's joining us now. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Mary. Hi, everyone. We're halfway through, hanging in there. So let me just go ahead and pull up my screen to share. Okay. So good morning, everyone. My name is Linda Lee. I'm an associate planner with the City of San Mateo. I will be facilitating for study areas 2, 6, 9, and 10. I'm also joined with Nikki Vu. He is the note taker that will be capturing all your comments today. And so again, just a quick reminder, today's exercise is really looking at, not picking or making a decision on which alternative everyone likes. It's really to look at, as a whole, is this the right range of alternative scenarios? And if not, are there any ideas or changes missing that you would like to see us evaluate? So with that, I'll go ahead and move into the first study area. So study area 2, this is the Bell Mateo Bowl and Molly Stone shopping area. Currently, it's characterized by neighborhood commercial uses in the teal, the bright red. There are also high density multifamily uses allowed. So that's also in the teal, the brown, the lighter tan brown. And the pink is the service commercial use, west or east of South El Camino Real. And so the different alternatives being considered for study area 2, A, B, and C would look at bringing in low-rise residential uses along or within the Molly Stone Market shopping area. B would look at a mixed use low-rise in the center of the study area, as well as on the east side of El Camino Real. And so this would provide for a potential mixed use village concept. And C would look at maintaining that neighborhood commercial along El Camino Real corridor, but bringing in mixed use medium across on the east. And so the different alternatives, to understand, what does that mean in terms of net new homes, population, and jobs? A would project the least, the lowest residential growth, whereas B and C would provide for more homes, increased population. Okay, so if anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to enter that in the chat, and Mary can go ahead and read them off.
I'm just waiting for comments to come in.
Okay.
Right now. I don't see any comments right now, Linda, but I will
No
alert
worries.
you if you move to the next one and something comes in. Oh,
Sounds
here we
good.
go. Here's one. Did we consider mixed use medium between 41st and 42nd Avenue?
Yeah, so as you see in the study area, it's not shown. So just so everyone can see, this is 41st, 42nd. Low-rise mixed use is being considered, but if there is a desire to see medium, we can go ahead and note that. So thanks for that comment.
What's pink again?
Pink is service commercial. I think I didn't include the legend for that. So that's the meaning of pink, service commercial. So more like auto service use. All right.
Yeah, no more comments at this point.
No problem. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next study area. So study area 6, this is a campus drive area. And so currently the existing general plan land use designates it as executive office on the northern portion along Campus Drive. And on the south, where the Laurelwood Shopping Center is designated as neighborhood commercial. And so the different alternatives being considered for study area 6, A, B, and C would look at bringing in some medium rise residential use in the orange. And this is consistent with a planning project that was approved, Peninsula Heights 290 residential unit project. A and B would look at preserving some of the existing office use. So the lighter purple, that's low rise office. And B would look at concentrating office use on these two fuchsia colored parcel. So that's medium office. Other key things to note, A and B would change the designation of Laurelwood Shopping Center to low rise mixed use. So there's an opportunity for commercial, office, and residential uses. And C would look at, not changing Laurelwood Shopping Center and keeping it as neighborhood commercial.
There's a comment going back to the last set of slides. I'm sorry to jump around, but
no worries.
Might like to see one of the Bel Mateo alternatives explore the Molly Stones portion as mixed use between 42nd and 43rd. So just as an option for that.
42nd and 43rd. Okay. So this area.
Right.
Great. Thank you. I'll just flip back to study area 6. Okay. So I think some things to consider. So as you see, A would generate the least or the lowest residential. I mean, there is some net new residential units, 720, but B and C would be increasing it even more. And in C, as you can see, removing the office use would mean 0 net new jobs, whereas A and B would increase it slightly. Okay. So if there are no comments, I'll go ahead and move on to the next study area.
I don't see any. If it lags behind, we might just jump back at the end to it.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, here's a comment. Alternate C, but keep low residential and mixed use of B. So maybe to change the option on on C to add low residential
Okay.
mixed use. And then can option C for top half and option B for Laurelwood Shopping Center? So I think they're wanting to combine an option to make a different alternate.
Mhm.
And then what's the existing land use for the office area? Medium?
Yeah, so the existing, it's executive office. It doesn't quite get into low medium. I think that's a new designation that we're exploring with this upcoming general plan update.
And then
Yeah.
this is just a general comment, not part of this discussion, but a key point, we are being forced to accept extremely high housing numbers mandated by RHNA.
Oh, Rena.
Right. All areas should look for high-rise opportunities in each alternative.
We'll go ahead and take note of that feedback. Thank you.
And then going back to the what's the existing land use, they have said, or housing inclusive if higher density is not possible.
So I'm just doing a quick check on time.
So
okay.
we are good. We
Okay.
have 15 more minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so going back to the RENA comment, there is a workshop planned April 22nd. Let's Talk Housing Initiative that's organized by San Mateo County. And so that will be a meeting all about RENA. If you're interested in that, please go ahead and sign up on the website. We have it up online on our strivesanmateo.org meetings if you're interested in that topic.
And I've also included that link in the beginning of this chat. So if
great.
yeah.
Thank you, Mary.
Sure.
Okay.
And then here's another, would like an option where Laurelwood is medium mixed use. And then maybe an option with mixed use medium for part of Laurelwood. Two different comments, the same basic comment.
Okay.
So medium mixed use for Laurelwood.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and make note of that. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next study area. So the next study area, number 9, this is Hillsdale, Norfolk area. And just to orient everyone, it's mainly a regional community commercial and neighborhood commercial serving portion of the general plan. So right here is the Kaiser Medical Office. And across from that is the Hillsdale Inn with Enterprise Car Rental Office. And the bright red, that's neighborhood commercial, that's the Marina Plaza Shopping Center. Some of the key changes that we're looking at through the different alternatives. So A, B, and C would look at designating that existing Kaiser Medical Office as medium rise office. Another change to note is around Hillsdale Inn, it would be changed to low rise residential. And this would be consistent also with a residential project that the city is reviewing on these parcels. And for the Marina Plaza Shopping Center, so A would look at, keeping it as regional commercial. B would look at introducing a medium rise mixed use combined with some regional commercial use. And C would look at combining a mix of neighborhood and regional commercial. And other things to note, so along closer to Poinsettia Avenue, through the different alternatives, we're looking at considering that as neighborhood commercial use or keeping it low residential use in B.
There's a question, why are we considering changes to Kaiser given how new it is?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a change. So the Kaiser is new, it's an existing office building. And so in this alternative, looking at designating it as medium office would be consistent with what's existing.
And then there's another question.
Yeah.
This is an overall consideration should be given to how the push for tall, high density buildings will compromise the quality of life and sustainability of potential of surrounding residents with the reduction or elimination of airflow and rainwater, as well as sunlight for solar. And then here's one more about this alternative. Hillsdale Boulevard, Norfolk should be evaluated for higher density housing, one of the few places we could do.
Thank you for the comments.
And it says, seems like the apartments on Los Prados and Casa de Campo, just outside the study area, could be torn down and rebuilt higher, 4 to 5 stories.
Is that in this area, Mary?
It's just
wanted to-
outside the area.
Okay.
And so you can see Casa de Campo right below the marina area.
I see.
So that's not within the study area, but they're saying
Okay.
that maybe should be included as an alternative.
Mhm.
And then yeah.
Okay.
Mary, could you tell me again where they said the address of that was? Casa de Campo?
Yeah, Los Prados and Casa de Campo. So it's, if you look at the area, the alternative C, right below the red of the marina parking is Casa de Campo and La Selva Circle, and that's that area.
Got it. Thank you.
And then another comment, my sustainable comment was in regards to the previous study area and all other areas with high density building proposals. Sorry. Thank you, Abigail. We're just jumping around a lot, and I know it's hard to get your comments in.
Thank you for clarifying.
And then there's just a comment about it's hard to do these study areas, and I just in this short period of time. And I do want to encourage everyone that we do understand that, and that there is the online survey that you can take at your own with your own time and be able to really review them. And that is very helpful. Even if you do this, we would greatly appreciate if you would do that survey that is online now.
Thank you, Mary, for that reminder. Yeah, we do know it's a lot to digest. You know, you're looking at 10 study areas in total, and we're just, I guess our purpose really is to introduce you to all of it, highlight the key changes so you can make a more informed, just comment later when you complete the survey.
And then another comment, let's not restrict ourselves to hard lines in identified areas. Earlier meetings were short and hard to see specific areas that we identified. Need to take advantage of chances to increase housing.
Thank you for that comment.
And it says in adjacent areas that might work. And then someone else says, asking the little sliver of commercial service, what is that today? So
that must be for 2, the Bel Mateo Bowl area. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about this one.
Yeah, I think that's
service commercial.
In Plan A, yes.
In Plan A?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's actually, yeah.
I'll have to look at a map further. Excuse me.
Oh, no, I think she's saying in Plan A, see in Plan A over by Franklin Parkway. I think that is maybe a car wash.
Yeah, or a gas station. It's usually one of those.
Yeah.
Or a open, car lot.
Yeah.
That's typical in this area.
And then someone commented, not in favor of increasing in density to Hillsdale, Norfolk, Casa de Campo area, already congested, one way in and one way out.
Okay, thank you for that comment. So I'll go ahead and move on to the last study area, just to make sure we have enough time to cover it all.
Yeah, and we have about 7 more minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mary. So the last study area, this is the Bridgepoint Shopping Center. As you can see, the brown color that you see, that's where the shopping center is. That's where Home Depot is. So it's currently designated regional, community commercial with high density multifamily allowed. On the pink, that's the regional community commercial land use designation, and that's where the existing Marriott Inn hotel is. And on the purple, that's the executive office use. And so, there are offices like, well, Sony is on this brown, but in general, this area is characterized by high-rise offices. And so moving into the different alternatives being considered, A, B, and C will look at preserving, some of the office uses, designating it as high-rise office. The Sony would be, protected as medium-rise office. We have residential uses, medium-rise being considered where the existing Bridgepoint apartment is. Home Depot and Bridgepoint Shopping Center here in A would be maintained as regional commercial. In B, the key change to highlight is exploring a low-rise mixed use at the Bridgepoint Shopping Center here. And in C, we would be looking at medium rise residential use at the Bridgepoint Shopping Center. And for the Marriott area, there's no change. It's staying as regional commercial. So key things to note, A and B, it's not much change in the net new residential units. A would look at more population, some amount of job increase. B would actually propose the most net new jobs. And C would looking at increasing residential population and more homes. So if there are any comments, feel free to chat them to Mary.
Okay, so explore B with keeping residential in A along Fashion Island Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
And then another comment, no mixed use medium in Bridgepoint. That's a question. Maybe A can explore that if the current use is technically commercial regional.
Okay, let me flip back. Yeah, so the current is, it's a mix of regional and community commercial. That's the brown.
And then in B would like medium mixed use at Bridgepoint.
Okay. Thanks for that comment.
And here's another. This area could accommodate a few high-rise housing buildings. Excuse me. Can we explore and identify areas that are qualified for city-approved higher height limits? Could we identify those areas for future sessions to help?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and take that down as a comment for future workshops.
And then the purple area in the lower right corner should be mixed use or residential.
So this fuchsia colored one?
The purple area in the lower right corner. So I believe it's the current
this dark purple, like an eggplant color.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
And then just to be clear, in Bridgepoint, in B, Bridgepoint would be a combination of commercial, regional, and medium mixed use. I think that's a question.
So it's low rise mixed use, so the lighter blue. But we have heard, comments about medium mixed use. So we've noted that as well in our notes.
We have about 3 more minutes.
Okay.
So can I ask a clarifying question? The comment on maintaining Fashion Island Boulevard, what use did they want to maintain? Was it residential or commercial?
Let me see here. Explore B with keeping residential in A along Fashion Island Boulevard.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have about 2 minutes left, and we can do a quick recap if that's helpful. So for everyone to see, what we've heard in this group. I assume slide 9, Nikki, or is it further in?
No, it's slide 9. You got it.
Okay, great, thank you. And so from this group, what we've heard so far for study area 2, the Bell Mateo Molly Stone area, exploring mixed use between 42nd and 43rd, as well as between 41st and 42nd Avenue. So a mix of even considering medium rise mixed use. For study area 6, Campus Drive area, we've heard comments that Laurelwood should be considered for medium instead of low rise mixed use. Another comment, considering high-rise housing and H alternatives. And the last comment we heard was support for keeping low-rise residential on the eastern area of this study area.
And then there is one more comment. In Bridgepoint today, it's both commercial neighborhood and commercial regional. Can you say more about what changes if it's only commercial or regional? Wondering if we should consider continuing to allow commercial neighborhood there.
Yeah, so Bridgepoint, I would say, the key difference between neighborhood and regional commercial uses. Neighborhood is meant to serve more of the immediate neighborhood. So as we mentioned in the presentation earlier, thinking of, your salon, your bar, a small store, small mom and pop shop, whereas regional serving commercial, that's actually what I would say Bridgepoint and Hillsdale Mall represents. It's really serving not just local residents, but visitors living outside that drive in to shop. So this is just, so the place type would give you a good example of the differences between neighborhood and regional commercial.
Okay, I think we have to move on now.
Okay, right.
Adam and Seagill, your notes will be captured in the chat, and I'm sorry we couldn't get to those. They just came in. So thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone.
And so
Going to be Nikki. Sorry, Mary.
Oh, sorry. Go. Sorry. Our next facilitator will be Julia Klein, and she should be joining us here just a moment. And here she is.
Hi, my note taker. Hi, everybody. My name is Julia Klein. I'm with the City of San Mateo, and with me is Wendy Lau, also from the City of San Mateo. And we're going to be covering 4 study areas, primarily in the northern part of San Mateo. And give me a moment while I adjust my screen. I'm trying to make sure I can see everybody at the same time that I'm sharing my screen. So 1 second. Okay, so the first area that we're going to cover is study area 1, then we'll go to 4, then 5, then 7. So study area 1, as you'll see on this slide, is this map currently represents the existing land use designations. And so currently we have medium density and high density multifamily residential, as well as some office mixed in within a residential overlay. And so that's reflective in the orange, brown, and purple colors of the existing land uses. And what we're seeing is alternative A, B, and C with slightly different mixes of land uses. Primarily across all 3, you'll still see this orange color, which is the residential medium. But in alternative A, you'll see the introduction of this light blue color at Tilton and El Camino. And that's reflective of mixed use medium. Mixed use medium is for 4 to 7-story buildings, and that orange color that we were talking about is reflective of residential medium, which is 4 to 7-story buildings with the residential densities between 40 to 99 units per acre. In alternative B, what we see in the middle is a red color, and that's commercial neighborhood. And so that red color is at El Camino and West Poplar intersection, and that's where the gas station is currently. In alternative C, you'll see a slightly different color being introduced at Tilton and El Camino, and that's the mixed use high. And so mixed use high is reflective of 8-story or taller buildings, and it has because it is mixed use, it has a range of density between 100 units to 200 units per acre, and a floor area ratio that could range from 0.25 for retail to 5.0 for office. So those are the key differences in terms of the land use colors among the 3 alternatives. And then with those differences is also reflective of the net new homes and net new jobs. And so that's included in the table that you see at the bottom of the screen here. I can zoom into some of these maps. If there's an interest in doing that, please let me know. And then if you have any questions or comments, please let us know through the chat to me.
So actually to me, to
Yes.
chat to me. Oh, sorry, Julia. There is a comment here. I like parklets, but am concerned by their impact on future businesses as the economy recovers. Parking is unacceptable right now. Worse with recovery. Need to balance both.
Thank you for those comments. Are there anybody else who would like to provide comments or questions?
Okay, nope. I have nothing else right now, Julia, but if we move ahead and somebody asks something, we might bounce back.
We can certainly do that. So let's go ahead and go to study area 4.
Here's another question, sorry. Not sure how the alternatives can increase population to the degree in the summary.
So the populations or population growth that we're planning for with these 3 alternatives, and it's spread out across the different properties that are noted within the study areas. And so, as I indicated, the colors are reflective of a range in density. And so some of these properties that when you go along El Camino right now, some of these properties are only 2 stories existing. And so what we're planning for is 20 years into the future, there might be a change in some of those structures, some of those buildings. And, 2-story buildings may change if the land use designation changes to residential medium, which is that orange color. What we're looking at in terms of that color is 4 to 7-story buildings and residential densities that are 40 to 99 units per acre. And so that's what we mean when we're talking about population growth and net new homes, is looking at land use opportunities in the future where those population and homes could be located. And so that's what we're talking about in terms of land uses in these colors.
And there's another comment, but I think it speaks to what you just spoke of. It says, are there chances to add higher density housing here?
So that is a comment for us to note, and then Wendy is taking notes. So thank you for that comment.
And the last commenter before said, thank you, that helped with the information you provided.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so why don't we move on to study area 4, because we got the most questions out of the other groups for study area 4, and then we can always come back to this if we have time later at the end. So study area 4, it's a large geographic area, so I want to make sure one thing that is common across all 3 is the downtown historic district, which is right in the middle. You'll see that there's this dark line boundary, and so that area, we've heard from many community members about how important it is to preserve that area. So that area is staying the same in terms of that mixed use medium designation. And then the key differences among all 3 maps is that you'll see that in alternative A, most of this area is that medium color blue, which is mixed use medium. And then in alternative B, you'll see that there's the introduction of that darker blue color, which is the mixed use high. And then in alternative C, you'll see more of that darker blue color of that mixed use high. Another key difference is that in alternative C, you'll see east of the railroad tracks from El Dorado to the highway, a color that is the orange color, the darker orange color, is reflective of residential medium, but you also see that right next to that is that residential low color, which is that lighter orange color. And the key difference between the 2 colors is that, as Joanna had mentioned earlier in the presentation, is as the color gets darker, building heights and densities and intensities increase. And so residential low is reflective of buildings that are 1 to 3 stories, and with a residential density between 9 dwelling units per acre to 99 to 39 units per acre. And then residential medium, which is that darker orange color, is reflective of 4 to 7-story buildings with residential densities between 40 to 99 units per acre. Let me know if I should zoom in on any of these maps. These are large geographic areas, so I want to make sure everybody can see. So let me know if there's any desire to zoom in, or if you have any comments or questions.
I don't have any comments here yet, Julia. Oh, wait, here we go. Are mixed use able to change to residential along Delaware, Claremont, and El Dorado?
So Delaware, Claremont, and El Dorado. So mixed use means a combination of uses on that property. And so it would include the option to include residential as part of the project. If there is an interest, to study changing some of these mixed use color designations to 100% residential, that's a comment that you can make, and then we'll make sure to record that. But I do want to point out that mixed use allows a variety of uses, including residential.
Yes, residential only, that she was saying, just for residential.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, so that comment is going to be noted by Wendy. Thank you.
Noted, thank you.
Any other comments? Questions?
It doesn't look like there's any more comments, Julia.
Okay, so why don't we go to the next one and then we can always come back. So study area 5 is the area that's covering North San Mateo Drive up to Peninsula and then across Peninsula Avenue to the Woodlake Shopping Center area. So the current land use designations are medium and high density residential, as well as commercial and some office. So these are the 3 alternatives. What you'll note is that the Safeway is the Woodlake Shopping Center area. So in alternative A, that is staying commercial neighborhood, which is the current land use designation. In alternative B, that's changing to mixed use medium. Alternative C is seeing that area change to mixed use low. And then that mixed use low also extends across additional properties on Peninsula Avenue. In the middle of the study areas, you'll note that in alternative A, it's a mix of purple and red. The purple is reflective of office low, and then red is that neighborhood commercial designation. In alternative B, that same middle area of the map is showing mixed use medium. And then in alternative C, that middle area is showing purple and red again. It's also introducing 2 new colors. One is the residential high, and then the other is the mixed use high. And as I mentioned earlier, the darker a color is, the higher density, the higher sort of range of buildings. And so for residential high, what we're looking at in terms of the place types menu, it's showing buildings that are 8 stories or taller, and then residential densities that are 100 dwelling units per acre to 200 dwelling units per acre. And then the mixed use high is reflective of buildings that are 8 stories or taller. Because it is mixed use, that range has a residential density of 100 units per acre to 200 units per acre, and then floor area ratio with 0.25 for retail and 0.5 up to 5.0 FAR for office. With these mix of colors of land uses, it's reflective in differences in terms of net new homes and jobs that are accommodated in this study area. And so that's reflected in the table at the bottom. So are there any comments or questions?
We'll wait a minute just to see if there's comments, but there is a couple about the downtown. So maybe when we finish, Julia, we can go back to downtown.
Sure.
Do you have one more area to cover as well?
I do.
Okay. Okay. We are, we have till 12:03, so we have another 14 minutes. And here's a comment for this area. Some existing use along San Mateo Drive is auto sales. What land use would that be?
So that is actually commercial. And so currently it could be this color right here, that's regional commercial. So it's between the light pink and this darker red color. It's that medium sort of red tone color. So what we're seeing is that some of the auto repair and auto sales properties, some of the property owners have indicated an interest to follow the general plan and seeing what the community's interest is for different uses on those properties. And so some major property owners are open to hearing and receiving community input about what type of uses might go into there. So if you have ideas, definitely share with us and send your chat comments to Mary to chat to me.
Okay, here's a comment, Julia. In B, could we not extend mixed use residential from Safeway the same as alternative C?
That's a comment to be noted. So Wendy is noting down that comment. So that's for alternative B.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Any other comments or questions?
We'll just give them a second more or a minute more, because I know to type it in takes a minute for people to gather their thoughts, but so far there's no other comments.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and go to study area 7, and then we can always come back.
Okay.
So study area 7 is the two sides of the Highway 101. And so we have an area that's on the that's pink, and so that's service commercial, which is along North Amplet. And then on the other side is a mix of high density as well as other residential uses. In addition to that, part of the study area includes the Shoreview Shopping Center area, and that's the red color. So these are the existing land use designations. What we have in alternative A is that a lot of the pink service commercial is shown here. It's reflected to be retained. The Shoreview Shopping Center area is changing slightly to mixed use low. And then in alternative B, North Amplet, part of that is changing to residential medium. And then the other part of it is changing to residential high with the darker brown color. And then Shoreview Shopping Center area, the majority of that area is changing to mixed use medium. In alternative C, we see that the North Amplet area, 3 whole blocks, is designated as residential medium. And then in the Shoreview Shopping Center area, a portion of that is changing to mixed use high. So are there any questions or comments about these 3 alternatives? Are there land uses or different considerations that we are not showing here that you would like us to consider?
I'm waiting for comments to come in. I believe I have a comment about the previous area, so if we have time, we'll jump back, but we'll see what comes in now, Julia. Don't see any comments. Julia, can we go back to area study area 5?
Sure.
There is a comment. Is C one of the approved, is alternative C one of the approved areas to raise heights by city approval?
We don't have such a city approval for increasing heights. What we're trying to do with the general plan is really to look at a mix of a range of land uses across the city in these study areas to study. And some of these alternatives, because the land use colors, anything that's indicated with, a high residential high, office high, or mixed use high, as shown in the place types menu, those are looking at taller buildings, which is 8 stories or taller. And so what we're doing with the general plan with this particular exercise is we're looking at the range of land uses to study, and then we're going to get into the technical evaluations and study what those land uses mean and what those impacts could be. And so right now, we don't have any of those approved plans or studies or anything yet. We're still, way early in the process, getting your input on just the range of land uses in these study areas to study.
Okay, I'm trying to go back to a comment that was, I believe, about the downtown area.
Okay, I can go back to that map.
It's more just a general comment. The problem with mixed use is that developers will more often choose to build commercial, and then we're always challenged with housing.
So that is a comment for us to note. And while we are right now looking at the study areas and the land uses study, when we get into the technical evaluation, comments like that, considerations like that are helpful for us to think about. So definitely provide those as well. Any other questions or comments, or if you need me to zoom in on any of the maps, please let me know.
Here's a comment. I'm told under Proposition Y, there are identified areas that can go higher with city approval. We should take advantage of any opportunities. It will not flood the area with high rises, but allow some few specific higher density housing units. Again, RENA mandates make this important.
Thank you for that comment.
I have no other comments right now. We have about 7 minutes left here, Julia.
Okay, and so in regards to Measure Y and the properties that are noted in Measure Y that have that potential to go from 55 feet to 75 feet, and Measure Y has a horizon of 2030. And what we're planning for with the general plan 2040 is 10 years beyond that. And so some of the mix of land uses that you see in these that are reflected in these three alternatives for across all 10 study areas are reflective of us trying to plan for 10 additional years beyond Measure Y. And so, I just want us to make sure we keep that in mind is when we're talking about, General Plan 2040, it is a full 20-year period that we're planning for in terms of population growth, net new homes and jobs.
And here's another comment about the downtown area. There's a lot of mixed use high and alternative C. There's also lots of office high. I wonder if it might be worth considering not adding so much office high in that plan, so we're not raising all the heights everywhere.
Thank you for that comment. I do want to mention that the colors are sometimes shown here reflective of buildings that are already at that height. And so you'll note that across from Central Park, this particular building is already that height. So it fits into the category of office high because it is more than 8 stories tall. And so some of these properties that are indicated in that higher designation is already reflective of the condition of the buildings that are already on the property. But thank you for that comment.
And here's another comment.
Okay.
While housing is needed, we should look at the overall increase in housing throughout the city, and not every area needs to be spiked with residential highs.
Okay, thank you for that comment.
And here's another one. But there are more dark purple in alternative C. If these are existing buildings, why aren't they shown in all 3 plans?
They're not. The ones that are existing buildings are the ones that are shown in all 3 plans. There's a few here in alternative C that is shown a little bit taller. And so these are opportunities for the future. And so as Jonah had mentioned during the initial presentation, is that some of these designations you see in alternative A, there's also some purple across here. The designations that are reflected in these maps are to provide opportunities for the future. And it's basically we're asking to see if this is a good range to study. We're not saying that we're going to choose one or the other at this particular moment, but is this an appropriate range to study? And are there other land uses that maybe we need to study that aren't reflected in these maps? But your original comment was noted, so that we have that as information to help us with the evaluation.
Okay, so we have about 3 more minutes, and here's another comment, Julia. Where we have existing high-rise offices, would like more tall buildings so that they don't stand out so much, either residential or office.
Okay, thank you for that comment. I really do appreciate everybody sharing these comments. Every group has provided, slightly different comments for each of the study areas, so it really is helpful for us. Any, don't be shy. Any comments or questions, yeah, please do share. All of this information is really helpful.
We'll give everybody a minute or two. We have just about 2 more minutes left in this last and final session. And
okay.
So,
why don't I show, I had an extra slide at the end of my presentation. And this is also something that was shown in Joanna's presentation. And it's basically, it was a question that came up in one of the other groups. When we're looking at just the 4 study areas and the range of alternatives there, that's a part of, the 10 study areas. And when we're looking at planning for the year 2040, we're looking at spreading that mix of growth across the city and the study areas. And so cumulatively, what we're planning for in alternative A is net new homes at this number. And alternative B and C have slightly higher numbers in terms of net new homes at about 15 to 16,000 for alternative B, and then about 21,000, for alternative C. There is also a difference in terms of the net new jobs, and that's, alternative A has about 15,000, and that's about the same for alternative B and C. So I just want to make sure that when we're talking about planning for 2040, it's looking at across the city and a mix of uses that are that can change between now and when we get to a preferred scenario. So let me know if there's another study area we want to focus on or zoom in on.
And we're just getting a couple of comments for appreciation for working on this complex study areas, and thank you for all you do in presenting for all the facilitators.
Thank you. And then Wendy's typing fast away. So thank you, Wendy, for taking all the notes. And thank you, Mary, for moderating. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I can't tell you how much I appreciate everybody sharing their comments.
We have a couple more actually really quickly. So sorry, they're coming in. In general, prefer changing mixed use to residential only rather than creating mixed use or residential highs. And then one more comment is any higher builds for residential or office in downtown concerns me as a resident of North Central. This translates to more parking traffic issues in an already challenged area for both. Higher builds in other areas of San Mateo where there isn't these issues, I prefer. Is traffic and parking studies already done?
So thank you for all those comments. The traffic and circulation and how people get around, that's one of the technical evaluations that we will need to do at the next phase. So we recognize that that's important. Anytime that we have, changes in land use, especially, hearing the concerns that we've been hearing, across all of the groups today, traffic and circulation is something that is important that everybody has said. And it is definitely one of those areas that will be studied